back to the show. This is The Law Show on CL 650.
'Cause it's witchcraft, wicked witchcraft.
Well played, sir. We're on Halloween Eve here talking about family law, ending marriages and moving on to the next stage of your life. And joining us is David Halkett, partner McQuarrieHunter, and Leah Donaldson, associate. And we joked in the break here about, the differences. We were talking in the last segment about Leah and women, female lawyers, and maybe how you deal with things differently. And you mentioned, after going through 20 years of family law, how different men and women look at things. Can you give us an example?
Oh, completely. When it's if I'm against a female lawyer and she represents the wife and I represent the guy, the negotiations sessions are so different because the male side seems to want to just get it over with. How much is it going to cost to resolve it?
And move on.
Whereas the other side wants to discuss a lot of the issues, and some of them may be and often are very important, but the male side just wants to get it over with. It's a different dynamic when it's a lady lawyer with the male client and vice versa, because then you get both sides on both. And oddly enough, those ones actually go better because you have the
you have the yin and the yang now,
exactly,
right?
on each side.
Now, do you get clients come and the woman wants to go to Leah and a man wants to go to David? Is that typically how it works?
It does happen, but not that often, actually. I don't find that there's very many clients.
No.
It's more about the fit between the lawyer and the client.
Like there are some clients that my assistant comes in and it's say we rotate through the three of us, like for cold calls, and it may be my week, and the person literally would rather have a lady lawyer, and we say I have no issue with it. And if someone calls up and it's Leah's week and they want a guy lawyer, she doesn't have an issue with it. Mm-hmm. But most don't really care.
No.
And so, Leah, what's your men are from Mars, women are from Venus outlook on when it comes to divorcing and breaking up? Did you ever wonder how men and women ever get together in the first place?
A little bit, yeah. We definitely come from different perspectives, for sure. But it's interesting because we're seeing more and more same-sex relationships coming in. So that kind of changes that dynamic. But definitely over time, there's definitely trends in terms of men and women and how they handle separation and divorce.
And can you give us an example of the trend?
Yeah, I would agree with David that a lot of times the male focus is more on resolving things quickly, efficiently, and sort of not a lot of discussion, whereas the female clients are focused on resolving the actual issue and moving forward, because often these people are co-parenting, so they want to sort of talk things out, and we don't always get the good response on the other side.
It's the same with, men go shopping, you walk in, you buy the shoes, and you walk out.
Yep.
I don't try on 6 different pairs, right?
Nope.
So
exactly.
It's that spending the time to really sit down and think about it. That's what your girlfriends are for.
Right.
Or call mom.
Exactly.
All right, so let's get into the money part of this. This isn't legal fees. This isn't what you're being charged by your lawyer. Mm-hmm. This is the actual cost of the paperwork trail and all of that, right? So can you kind of walk us through what has to happen?
Well, in every file, there's going to be court filing fees, because every divorce, assuming the parties were legally married, you have to obtain your divorce through court. Even if there's no appearance, there's going to be court filing fees. So to file in British Columbia for divorce, it's $210. That's just your filing your notice of family claim. Then to obtain the divorce afterwards is going to be an extra $80 for the submission. And then if you want a certificate of divorce, which is just granted 31 days after, and it's a document prepared that gets sealed and says your actual divorce is final, that's an extra $35 or something. There's also, of course, service fees that you're going to have to serve the other person. That can be anywhere, depending where they are, a couple $100, could be more. There will also be just normal kind of costs that you would have disbursement costs. Then, of course, there's the legal fees, which vary depending on the firm.
Well, there's a survey here that says Canadian lawyers 2011, now this is 5 years old, legal fees survey, cost of an uncontested divorce range from just over $1,000 to $2,500, the average being $1,353. A contested divorce, meanwhile, this is when you drag your feet and start fighting, can cost anywhere from $7,200 to $74,000. Yeah. The average costing around $13,000. So what do you think about that?
It's not unrealistic.
No.
Someone said once that for a divorce, you can either do it for the cost of $2,000 or half your house. So yeah, depending. The higher end ones were probably very hotly contested. I've had some cases up over 100 over the time, but that's been over a number of years.
Is that because there's a lot of money at stake, or they just like each other that much?
Some have been over the money, but the most expensive ones I've had have been matters where there was custody fights.
Yes, I agree with that. So when there's young children involved, the fees, because really at the end of the day, people will pay whatever they have to protect their children. So if there's a safety concern on one side, often the fees become extremely expensive.
Even if it's only a perceived safety risk.
Yes.
It may not even be a legitimate one at the end of the day, but that's something that's fought on both sides.
So you say you have people who are racking up a bill of $100,000. Are these people who have the money, or are they going to have to wait to sell the proceeds of their home, or what have you?
It varies. A lot of it's from the home. Some they credit card it and they're paying as they go along, or loans from family. It varies from case to case.
And you can see whole asset classes wiped out, right?
Yes.
Like everything's gone.
Potentially, yeah.
So the divorce was about the argument, not about any kind of assets.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And that's pretty rare. Normally we see people spend a certain amount of money and then say, okay, you know what, it's not worth it to fight over this.
Yeah.
Let's just come to a reasonable settlement. But there are times when people will wipe out their entire assets.
Mm. And do you say to clients, okay, listen, this $5,000 that we're fighting over is going to cost you more than $5,000? I'm just using that as an example.
Oh yeah, I do that all the time. It's like you can spend an extra $10,000. You might, if you're successful, get an extra $20,000 out of the asset pool. Is it worth it? Or if someone is fighting, they want the majority of the time with the children, and the other person wants 2.5 days, and they only want to give them 2. Is half a day really worth $30,000 fight? Some say it is, some say it isn't.
Yeah. Well, so when someone comes to you and they say, how long is it going to take and how much is it going to cost me? What's your answer?
My answer is, in terms of the cost, it depends on how much it's fought on both sides, how entrenched the positions get. If the other side's not disclosing properly, you have to bring applications. In terms of the length, again, I usually tell them probably you got to be looking at 18 months. From the time they come and see me, depending, of course, on whether or not you start your action right away or if you try to negotiate. But, it's usually a couple of years, and depending on how much is fought on the cost.
So it says here in this 2011 legal fee survey from Canadian lawyer, uncontested divorce on average across Canada is $1,300. Have you ever had one that inexpensive?
Yeah, if it comes in and there's no children and someone comes in and says, I just want a divorce, everything's been resolved, and it's just, in effect, filing a couple of documents. It can do that for $1,200 plus the taxes and disbursements.
And what about, would you say the average of a contested divorce is? What is
more than the amount that's said in there?
More than the average. Yeah, I would say more than $12,000.
So it says here it's around $12,800. We'll say $13,000.
I would double that.
Double that. So 25 plus.
Yeah.
Right. So this is something that you really have to. Well, I'll flip it around. What's your advice to somebody who's not getting divorced because of $25,000+ to get the divorce? Is this, you say your life's too short to get hung up on this amount of money? Well,
some of them say, I don't want to be away from the children half the time. And I've said to people before, it's like, would you rather be with your children half the time but be happy all that 50%, or have them 100% of the time and not be happy? Mm-hmm. It does come down to some extent when it comes to the children. As selfish as it sounds, is you're a better parent if you're happy yourself.
Sure.
So don't.
And the kids know if you're not happy.
Exactly. So when it comes to a situation of, ultimately all divorces, some people will say, are all selfish. They're not. They're all valid reasons, and a lot of them for the divorce. But don't stay with someone just because you're afraid of what the cost might be.
The other thing is that if you wait, your financial circumstances can change, and it can end up being more disadvantageous to you. If you wait and get 10 years down the road, maybe you've received an inheritance now, and you might have to give part of that to your spouse depending on the circumstances. So to wait doesn't really make sense.
So this average, or you're saying it's, say, roughly $25,000+. Is that per side?
Yeah, that would be per side.
So that you're double. That's 50 now.
Yeah,
yes.
The uncontested probably is only for one, because if it's uncontested, the other side wouldn't necessarily have to have a lawyer. But yeah, no, for sure that you're looking at both sides of that. So if you look at an asset base in the old days, a house say $500,000, you're splitting it. You're down to $250 each, and then you're knocking off another 25 or 30, depending on how much is fought. You've gone from a $500,000 asset to $230,000. It just by the flick of a wrist, so to speak.
So you're not the bearers of good news when this comes down. Is it?
No one's happy to come and see us.
It's a good reason to be reasonable, though. So we can say you can spend this, or you can give up on a few things and cooperate a bit more and save yourself tens of thousands of dollars.
Now, how pragmatic are people in that situation? Well, most people say, oh, that sounds like a good idea, or they just say, to hell with it, I'm going to go after them. And
most people are pragmatic. Most people look at the amounts and say, yeah, I can compromise.
So they're willing to live with a certain amount.
Yes.
Like they kind of maybe even have a budget in their head, like I'm willing to give up this amount?
They might. And what I ask my clients, I'm sure Leah does the same, is what is the ultimate highest you'd ever want to pay? Not necessarily to us, but to the other side. And at least that gives you something to play with. And often things seem to come down to $10,000 on each side. And then by that time, it's going to be resolved. And because of the experience the two of us have, we have a pretty good idea when something's going to settle or when it won't. And so I had a case that just resolved. And, for a while, I wasn't sure if it was going to. But then once I got the other side's, one of their counter offers, I knew we would end up coming to a compromise. Yeah.
And the thing is, you have, for your client, your fees, and they're having to pay every month, I'm guessing, right? Yeah. So, but the other side, maybe their lawyer is more expensive or less expensive, yes. So they might have a different pain threshold, or they're feeling it more, right?
Yeah, and we do have individuals say, well, I know I can afford this fight longer than others. That's usually not a reason just to try and grind the other one, because at the end of the day, then you run into are you just being, in effect, quote unquote, abusive to the other party by trying to drag it out? Ultimately, it all comes down to dollar and cents for most people. And once you set them down, and once they've gotten over their anger, they make a pragmatic decision.
All right, we're going to take a break now. We're speaking with our family law practitioners, David Halkett, partner at McQuarrieHunter, and Leah Donaldson, associate. We'll continue our conversation next on CL 650.
There's more of the show still ahead. This is The Law Show on CL 650.